I should be writing. Am I going to though? No. So technically it is Monday the 27th, which is after the end of the reading rush, but during the reading rush they came out with the Racing to Read book tag, which I still wanted to jump on and, you know, throw out some books because the questions are great and they're not really partial to the reading rush readathon specifically, so I figured, you know, it's fine if I'm running a couple days late. I have no idea how long this video is going to be because a lot of these questions were really good and I had multiple answers for like all of them, so we'll just see how long it takes us because I think they're so much fun and they're so clever too, the little puns. The first one is Warm Up, a book that stretches your mind. For this one, my first gut response was The Lathe of Heaven by Ursula K. Le Guin. Should I pull them down? I should probably pull them down. The first one that came to my mind for this one was The Lathe of Heaven by Ursula K. Le Guin, because I think it is so dense with insight and a really good understanding of human nature that is scarily applicable to what's going on now because of like the pandemic and everything. So I find myself thinking about this one a lot in a lot of like outside situations, and I know that's when a book is good, or at least for me, that's when I know a book is really good. If I'm doing something else, I'm like, ooh, this is exactly what this author was talking about thematically in this book or whatever. That's when I know, it's a good one because it gets stuck in my brain. So I definitely really like this one. I think it tackles a lot of really good social issues and had a lot of good nuance. But it was also excellent on how it functioned on the narrative level. The story, the plot, the characters, they were all very fully developed. And Ursula K. Le Guin didn't fall into the rut that I find a lot of times in literary fiction, where they care a lot about the nuance and the meaning and the metaphor and all these kinds of stuff. But the story on like a narrative level, as far as like, do I actually like these characters, kind of falls flat. Didn't have that problem with The Lathe of Heaven, which is why I think it's that perfect book for like a book that stretches your mind, because, you know, you don't the stretching's not painful. Like you feel that you're thinking about all these other things, but it's not like, oh gosh, this hurts, my mind is blown, I'm not really having fun. This is more like a ooh, dance party kind of stretch. But the other one that I was thinking of for this one was Perelandra by C.S. Lewis. Literally, I could have picked anything by C.S. Lewis. I love C.S. Lewis's books because they are so thick with knowledge and insight. Like literally, there's so much in there. But sometimes with C.S. Lewis books, because they're so thick, you really have to go very slowly through them and take your time and really think about, you know, what he's saying and understand the concepts, because he's very smart. And they're really like mind-bending concepts. He doesn't use really a high level of vocabulary, but just some of the things he's talking about are very abstract. So I personally have to take a lot of time to like really sit and think and try and understand what he's saying. So sometimes they stretch my mind too much. But his space trilogy, Out of the Silent Planet, Perelandra, and That Hideous Strength are all super good at kind of feeding you this knowledge or the same theory that he has in his essay books, but in a more palatable format, because you still have that story, you still have those characters and everything. I think between the two of them, Perelandra is definitely more on the, I would say that Perelandra is definitely more on the literary theory aspect of it, and The Lathe of Heaven is definitely more narrative and fiction. If I had to pick which one I was going to read, like just on a weekend, like a chill weekend, I would definitely pick The Lathe of Heaven, because even with Perelandra, I definitely find myself having to slow down and pace and try and understand, because a lot of the knowledge that C.S. Lewis is trying to depart is done through dialogue, so it's kind of condensed from like an essay format, but also not really, because it's like he's still just talking straight at you. But I think, honestly, if you're trying to just learn something new or like feel enlightened, like either of them are great picks. The next prompt, or the next question, is start line. What's a book that you started but never finished? And for this one, I don't really think I have one. I'm very particular about finishing all the books that I start. It's kind of like a personal challenge that I hold myself to. But because any book I start, I finish, there's a lot of books that I've gone slower through and that I've really had a hard time reading just because I wasn't enjoying them. And if I had to pick one of those, it would be either The Selection by Kiera Cass, or, and I feel like I'm gonna get a lot of flame for this, the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. I didn't really like either of these books. Both of the main protagonists are very much like a I'm not like other girls kind of protagonist. And this is gonna sound weird, but the casts for both of them were just very white. And I don't mean in like mannerisms, I just mean like the whole story and the whole like character personalities felt very stock, very undiverse, very generic and stereotypical of both females and YA protagonists separately and together, if that makes sense. So I wasn't exactly enjoying either of them. Both of these series, I got the full series as a gift, so that's why I was trying to read them. So I finished the Selection series Up to the Air because that's how many I had received at the time. And as far as the Throne of Glass series, I received up to Queen of Shadows as a gift. So I'm reading through Queen of Shadows now, but after I finish Queen of Shadows, I'll probably be done with Sarah J. Maas. That said, Marin, the witch, she's pretty dope. She's pretty dope. The next prompt is Sprint, a book that you read really quickly. And this one is easy. This is The King of Atolia by Megan Wallen Turner. I read this book in 6 hours, I think, start to finish, tops. I remember I started it during work, during one of my shifts. We were at a lull and I started reading it and I finished it on my home sofa. And I literally do not remember the end of my shift nor my commute from work to my house. I was so consumed by this book. It was so good. And I think to this day, this book is my favorite one in the A Queen's Thief series. Though, to be honest, A Conspiracy of Kings, it's real close. It's real close. Both of those are just... the series as a whole is really, really good. And I want the last one. I want it and I don't want it. There was like a false alarm because it was supposed to come out like last year, I think, like last year, spring of last year, and then it got delayed. So now I'm not even looking at its release date because I can't get my hopes up, but I'm both over ready for its release, and I'm also just not ready. I don't even want to think about it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. The next question is Hurdles. What was a book that had its ups and downs? And this one, I mean, I feel like I've read a lot of books that had ups and downs, but in most recent memory would definitely be Threads of Suspicion by D. Henderson. This is a cold case detective novel, and the ups of this book was that it was really good at realistically depicting the career of a cold case detective. The downs were it was really good at realistically depicting the career of a cold case detective. Because, you know, real life is not like the movies. A lot of detective work is like boring 80% of the time. It's really, really boring. It's not like a true mystery novel because it's not like they're leaving hints per se. I mean, they kind of are, but also it's just trudge through the mud kind of detective work. You know, you try all the possibilities and some work, some don't, some pan out, others don't. So I felt like I learned a lot about what it's like working as a detective, and on a narrative level, I was very bored. The next prompt is Finish Line, a book you were proud to finish. For this one, I have a lot of books actually that I'm very proud to finish because, you know, I make myself stick to books and finish them and not DNF them. So like every book that I've read that I've had to like kind of trudge through, I'm always very proud to finish because it feels like, you know, a personal accomplishment. Like, yeah, we conquered you, which is really nice. So the Selection series by Kiara Cass, which I mentioned earlier, would be definitely an example of a book or a series that I was definitely proud to finish because, like, ooh, we did it. We finished all that we had. When I finish Queen of Shadows, hopefully within the next week or so, that'll be another one that I'll be very proud to finish because I would have read that whole series. But probably the one that I haven't already mentioned would be Angel Eyes by Shannon Ditmore. This is actually a trilogy series, and it was another series I didn't like because it felt very, very stock, very Hallmark. Oh my gosh, this was such a Hallmark book, such a Hallmark series, and it had its good points. Like, I feel like every book has some good points, but I was not having the greatest time with it. So I was very happy when I could check it off and put it on my red shelf and get it off my TBR shelf. I just realized y'all can totally see that mess over there because I had the pillows there staged for the camera. Well, darn. It's okay. So the next prompt is gold medal, best book you've read during a readathon. And to be honest, the only readathons I've done that I've actually been like fully devoted and committed to has been the Reading Rush 2019 and the Reading Rush 2020. But I can't even remember what I read during the Reading Rush 2019, even though I probably could just look it up on the website. Too much work. So I'm just gonna go with one of my favorite books that I read during this past readathon, and that would definitely be Where the Crawdad Sings by Delia Owens. I really loved this whole book. It was so much of what I was not expecting it to be. I don't know. I mean, this isn't a review, so I'm not gonna go like fully into it, but it was really good and I had a wonderful time reading it. I really loved the characters and I had a lot of fun with it. So this would definitely be one of my gold medal books for this one, but I wasn't sure if this was going to count or not because technically I didn't finish it during the readathon, but I did start it. I'm also currently reading The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden, which I am loving this book so much, not only because it smells so good. It's got one of those, like, I don't know what sort of like print company or like how they print books or whatever, but there is a specific printing press or whatever that has a very distinct smell. I can always tell like when a book has come from there, if I'm making any sense. Like, they have a lot of books that smell this exact way. Anyway, it's amazing. But the book is also actually amazing and I'm really enjoying it. And actually, I got this book in foils in London when I was there visiting some of my family. So this is I don't want to say a special, but this is the England edition of the cover, which I think is so beautiful. I mean, the normal edition of the cover is also very beautiful, but I do feel like this is it's got a different like artistic style to it, which I'm really liking. And I'm kind of heartbroken because I'm not going to be able to get the other two in this same style because I don't live in England, but you know, you win some, you lose some, right? So this last one is the one that I pulled out this stack for, as I realized you can already see, because I have so many for this. I have so many. I could do a whole video on this, but we're going to try and keep it speed round, and then maybe I will also do a video on it later if I feel like it. Signs point to yes. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands. Anyway, okay, so this one is the participation ribbon, and this is an underrated book you wish got more attention. I don't know how to prioritize these. Okay, the first one that I'm picking for this prompt is Rooms by Lauren Oliver. I got this book at the Dollar Tree. The Dollar Tree. I paid $1.09 for this book. And it was kind of like a dare to myself, like, ooh, I want to see if the Dollar Tree has any like good books, because you never expect to like walk out of the Dollar Tree with like an amazing book. So I just went there and I read through and I vetted them all and I picked one that I thought I would really like. And I found this one, and it is so amazing. I feel like I stole it because it is outrageous to me that it's without the Dollar Tree and that I'd never heard about it before. But it was so good. I don't know. Have you heard about it before? I had never heard about it before. And I think it's a fantastic. It's basically I don't know what they call it when it's like a lineage story, but it's an observation about this one family living in this house. They're a very dysfunctional family. So they're moving in because the owner, their like great grandfather, some relative has passed away and they have now inherited this house. So they're coming to manage the funeral, manage his effects and everything, but there are 3 ghosts that haunt this house for various reasons, all that have to do with something graphic with how they died and how their death is related to the house. All of these ghosts, because they've been there for several decades, have watched the family members grow up, so they're all kind of like narrating on the dysfunctional life. But each ghost has their own bias to certain members of the family, and it's so entertaining, it's so emotional. It talks about like so many different aspects of like broken families, and it's so wholesome and tragic and amazing. And I was shocked. $1.09, guys. $1.09. Insane. Another one for the participation ribbon would definitely be Emissary by Thomas Locke. I thought this one was so beautifully well done. It's a fantasy novel, but I was really impressed with just how wholesome it is. I feel like a lot of young adult novels are very Hollywood, and that they have all this drama, and there's relationship drama, and there's this, I don't know, the relationships are all very sexually charged, and everything's that, and there's all this, it's everything, and sometimes it's nice, and sometimes it's just too much. But this one was so wholesome because the relationship was so good, and sweet, and I don't know, it just felt like such a breath of fresh air as far as like the fantasy that I'm used to reading. Even though, don't get me wrong, there was still drama, there was still action, there were still wicked wizards to fight and people to kill and people to stab, and like the female love interest will cut a fella in a heartbeat, but it was still, I don't know, just the prose, the pacing of it was so relaxing. I really enjoyed it, and I want to finish reading this series. I think this is the first one in a trilogy, but I'm not sure. I think it would definitely rank in one of my top 5 romances of all the books I've read. Because yeah, I just really enjoyed it. For a very similar reason, another one that I would pick for the participation ribbon would be Tiger Lily by Jodi Lynn Anderson. I thought this one was so good, and so, I mean, one of the blurbs on the front was enchanting, and honestly, that's such a good word for it, because it's about Peter Pan, but told from the perspective of one of the Native American girls on Neverland. Her name is Tiger Lily, talking about, when all the English come and how they affect the magic and how they affect, the Native American community that lives there and everything. And it's also like a very somber, like poetically tragic kind of book, but the love that Tiger Lily has for Peter Pan, and then, I guess it's told from the perspective of Tinkerbell, so I guess, both of them. Everyone loves Peter Pan. So the love they have for Peter Pan, but also the love she has for her end love interest, because it's one of those. Now, do you think it would be? You could probably see it coming. Everyone can see it. I can see it coming. But it's another sweet one. Sweet, somber, beautifully sad. This is one of the ones you sit in the house and read while it's raining kind of books. So I really enjoyed this one. Had a wonderful time reading it. I thought it was beautiful. Honorable mentions for this one, because if I could literally go on talking about these sorts of things forever, would be Hiding Places by Erin Healy. That's an amazing, underrated book. I also read that one. I read that one in college, and my roommate thought it was so funny because I literally sat in a chair in our dorm and I just read that thing the whole day. I did not move until I finished that book. So she'd come in every couple hours, she'd be like, "Have you moved?" And I'd be like, "Nope, I'm busy." And I think one time she came in and I was like crying, and she's like, "Trin, are you okay?" And I'm like, it's just so good. So Hiding Places by Erin Healy, Attachments by Rainbow Rowell. I feel like Fangirl gets all the attention, or Carry On and Wayward Son gets all the attention, but Attachments is also like a really good book by Rainbow Rowell, and if you haven't read it, you should read it. I would probably kill someone for Lincoln, just throwing that out there. He's such a sweet boy. The Female of the Species by Mindy McGinnis. Oh my gosh, Mindy McGinnis is coming for the throat of a lot of people in terms of, like, I don't know, tackling social issues. The Female of the Species is about rape culture, like, plain and simple, in a lot of different aspects and a lot of harsh, ugly light that really brings home the reality of what's going on and what the type of attitude that we often have about rape is having on different people. So, like, more people need to read that book, I feel. I don't know what she's doing as far as, like, the topics that she has for a book, like Female of the Species, rape culture, heroin, drug addiction. Like, it's dark, but it's some good stuff. I ain't gonna lie to you, it's some good stuff. The last prompt, because I totally went out of order and skipped one, is Marathon. What's your favorite long book? And I haven't really read a lot of long books. That's something I need to definitely do better on. But the longest book I could say I've read that I also enjoyed would be Winter by Marissa Mayer. I mean, I think it's like 800 something pages, but it was also like really good. And you know, it's the finale of the series, so like the page length is totally justified. So that was definitely one that I really enjoyed. That would, I feel like, would universally be classified as long. I feel like, though, a lot of the other books that I read are typically in like 400 page range, and it depends because the pages are maybe bigger in some and the font may be smaller in some. So while they're not like visibly long, they take a while to read. So I guess one of the ones that I've read that has probably felt the longest would be A Voice in the Wind by Francine Rivers. This is book 1 in her Mark of the Lion series, and I think it's about, that's like at 500 or so pages, and you can see the pages are big and the font is tiny. So this one took me a while, but it also covered a long span of time. It's another one of those like lineage books, so I'm not sure if it actually took me a while to read or it just felt long because it was kind of covering like years and years of time. Sometimes books have that effect on me where they're not really long. They're just like, ooh, this covered 3 decades. So I'm like, oh, well, this took forever to read, when it really didn't. Okay, so I think that is pretty much it. I hope if you're doing Camp Nano, you're being much more devoted and responsible about it than I am. I've been kind of procrastinating a little bit. I hit a hitch in my story and I'm just in denial. So we'll work on that. Probably. I should probably do that now, shouldn't I? Yeah. Dang. But good luck to all my fellow campers. We are in the home stretch. Thank you for spending these past couple minutes with me, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.